welcome back for another success story. We have Patricia Reed here with us today, and she's going to talk about selling on eBay, and her specialty is vintage items. So say hi, Patricia.
Hi, everyone.
Or is it Patty?
Patty.
Okay, well, I've seen you on Facebook and email for years as Patricia Hamilton Reed. So
yeah.
now we're friends, so I'll call you Patty.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so tell everybody where you're located.
I'm in a little town called Pee Wee Valley, which is right outside of Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay. Even though you're in horse country, you're not into that.
No, I'm a Yankee at heart from Michigan.
Well, you're in good company. There's a lot of sellers in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you lived in Kentucky?
Oh, about 15 years.
Okay.
So the kids were raised here, so I guess we should be Kentuckians, but we're still Michiganders or Ganians, whatever you want to say.
Okay. And tell us your store name.
It's called Circular Vintage and Shoes. The circular is sort of like a play on recycling, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then newer shoes are kind of my baseline item.
Okay. And we're going to talk more about what you sell in just a minute. So the stuff everybody wants to know, how long have you been selling on eBay?
Well, so long. Since about 2001.
Okay.
2001, 2002, something right in there.
And how'd you get started? And why'd you get started?
Well, I got started just selling a couple of things that I had, and then I almost immediately started buying things at estate sales. But I had a history of my mother used to, back in the 70s and early 80s, she had our garage set up as like a permanent sale, and it was horrifying. And I would say to people, you won't believe this. She buys things at other people's yard sales and then marks them up and sells them at her own sales. I'd never heard anything so ridiculous. And now, of course.
Now you think she's a genius.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she didn't live long enough to see eBay because she would have loved it. But.
Oh, gosh, that's perfect. Well, you were around the reselling all growing up, and you were kind of not really getting it at that point.
No. But back when I started, I actually remember having to send film to Snapfish to get it put on digital so that I could upload my pictures to eBay before I got my first, I think it was a 1 megapixel camera.
That must have been right around, I started in 2003, and you could put pictures right on eBay. So I must have come in right when that changed.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people that started, a year or two before me, and they talk about having to get their pictures developed and then scan them in and put them up there. And so it just kills me when people today talk about eBay's so slow, and I'm like, honey, you don't know what slow is.
Oh, for sure. Waiting for all those checks and yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's evolved, and you've been there the whole time. So what made you start selling? Did you need money, or did you just think it was cool, or how'd you get into it?
Well, a little bit of both. When I started, it was about right when we moved from the Washington, D.C. area back home to Michigan, and I had just had our second child. And so I was working part-time from home and just needed, a little more. And I'd always liked vintage stuff and kind of knew a little bit about it, and started picking things up and just went from there. And then since I was working at home already, I just couldn't go back to working in an office, and I haven't.
Good for you. And you don't have to. That's right.
Nope.
People say, why do you stay at home and sell junk online? And it's like, because I can.
Right. And for a while I thought, I'm wasting my college degree, but I guess I'm really not. I have a degree in journalism, and I write, I take photos, I took,
It
and I
works.
do research, so it's all there.
So yeah, that leads into the next question. What is your professional background before you got into eBay?
Yeah, well, so I said I had a journalism degree, and I had worked as the editor of a small town newspaper. And then when my husband transferred to Washington, D.C., I worked on funding publications, grants, and government money for nonprofits and education. And then when we moved back here, I still did that. And then those publications folded about a couple years in. And then I went back. I just started doing eBay full time until a couple years ago when I felt like I was, in a grind.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, I got to do something where I don't have to pay money to make money for a little
Right.
while. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started doing some online writing and editing for like content sites.
Right.
And then, uh, and then I just got kind of pulled back into it. It was just so much more fun to do this after, of course, I'd closed everything down and got rid of all my stuff. And then I just,
You miss it. You miss it. I know. I know. And
mm-hmm.
I didn't realize you were doing the online writing, because that is the perfect complement to eBay, because it's guaranteed money. You get the jobs and you do the work, and it's guaranteed money, whether you've got an ongoing contract with a company or just getting the freelance work, because
Yeah.
you can step away from that unknown of eBay, like, oh, I got to pay this, something needs to sell, and you just can't
Yeah.
make that happen on eBay. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
people don't get that you just have to be patient, and it's going to sell when it sells. But when you have something to supplement that uses your skills, that you can
Mm-hmm.
either make money hourly or by the job, it takes that pressure off, and you can enjoy it
Mm-hmm.
a lot more.
Yeah, and like I look at what you do and all your writing, and I think, oh man, I should have been doing that. But,
Well, I mean, and jobs come and go. It's like, if you
mm-hmm.
look back over my blog and YouTube stuff over the years, it's like, oh, now I'm writing for eHow. Well, they closed, they went out of business, and
Yeah,
yeah.
that was the main one that I had been working
Oh, you
for.
were on eHow too?
Yeah, I wrote a lot of gardening articles, and I started out as a copy editor
Okay.
and editing all the articles, and then was doing writing for a lot of them. And then, like you said, it would close. It was such a game because like the articles that people wrote would come up, and you would have to click on them faster than anyone else to
Mm-hmm.
get the article to it was crazy.
Oh, right. So they would say, we need somebody to write an article about planting daffodil bulbs, and you had to
Yeah,
grab it and claim it before somebody else did.
right.
Yeah, it's very well. I was lucky because I think I was the only one of the few writing about eBay at the time, because that was like maybe 2008, 2000, something
Mm-hmm.
like that, where there just wasn't all this information online about eBay. So that was kind of
Mm-hmm.
a separate, it wasn't as popular as some of the other things, and because you had to know what you're writing about.
Right,
They
right.
wanted experts in cooking and fashion and you know like dog training and all these special things that you already had
Mhm.
to know what to write about. There wasn't time to just become an expert in something.
Right, right.
So I didn't realize you were there. So that was some good money on eHow for a while. I mean, that's
Yeah,
my mortgage and more.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I worked there for 3 years, and I was making, probably almost 30,000
Hmm.
just doing the editing.
Yeah. And then
So,
they go away, and then you got to find something else, and then you do that for
mhm,
a while. And like, I was writing for about.com starting back in 2016,
mhm,
and it was great. And then they kept changing everything. Oh, we have to approve your articles. And I would submit ideas, and they're like, no, nobody's going to want to read about that. And I'm like, Yeah, they do. I've got 30,000 people in a Facebook group that ask this all the time. Yeah, they want to,
Yeah.
no, and they would like poo-poo my ideas because according to their metrics, it wasn't great. Or, they kept changing everything and making it impossible to make money. So there's a lot of opportunity out there if you can grab these jobs, but just for people that are watching that are looking for a supplement to eBay, just realize it changes. You don't just
Oh, yeah.
get a writing job and then you do that for 10 years. It doesn't work like that. Do you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. But I have a hard time. It got to be too much of a pain for me to try to find the jobs because I'm not good at putting myself out there, I guess, and taking all the rejection.
Yeah, it's like that on eBay too. So I didn't mean to get sidetracked, but I know that a lot of people out there are looking for something in addition to eBay because
Yeah.
eBay is unpredictable. It's not always steady, and it's anxiety producing when you have 400 things and nothing sells in a week, and you're like, I need money. So
Mhm.
I do encourage any kind of side job you can do in addition to eBay.
Oh, I just got a sale.
Oh, good for you. See, well, that was karma right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about your professional background. Now, obviously, your husband, you said, works, so your income isn't the only income in the household, right?
Right. Yeah. And he has the insurance and all that stuff. So,
Great.
but we do have one daughter in college and one who has recently graduated, and we're paying back all those loans. So,
Well, good.
all the income, and they're both art majors. So,
Well, all you can hope is that you invested in their future and their education, so that when it's time for them to pick your nursing home, they're going to pick a
right.
good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're already making threats.
Yeah, that's the thing. Just my kids remind me, you better be nice. I'm going to pick your nursing home. So
Hmm.
yeah, let's see about that. So what about your husband? Is he and your family, are they on board with your eBay business?
Oh yeah, they've always been very supportive. He sometimes will look around the garage and roll his eyes at me and say, "Oh my God, this is so much," and make little grumbly comments about, you really need to keep buying stuff?" But he's always been on board, and like he remembers like all my biggest sales and all that stuff, and we'll tell people about it, and he's
And
always
brag on you. Yeah, and he's proud of
yeah.
you. That's great. Not
Mhm.
everybody can say that. Yeah, my wife found this thing for a quarter at a church sale and sold it for $200.
Yeah, his favorite one is, I found it was way back in the early days, maybe 2004, 2005, when I found this little silver thimble. It had a hole in it. It was kind of out of round, and I put it up there at auction, and I immediately started getting, "Hey, will you sell this to me for just $63 and end the auction right now?" And I'm like, no. And it ended up selling for like $763 because it was a commemorative of the Salem witch trials, and it's to a museum in Salem.
Wow. And you found this where? At a church sale?
I got it at the second day of an estate sale, regular price $3, so I paid $1.50 for it.
Wow. See, that's the one I would print out that sale and I would frame it and hang it and be like, this is my motivation to keep doing this, because you just never know when that's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I don't do as many auctions anymore, and sometimes I wonder if I'm, you know, sacrificing the, fast nickel for the slow dime.
Yeah, it's a judgment call. It's hard with
Mhm.
auctions. You have to have something really unique and
Yeah, because in
collectible.
the olden times you had to do them all auctions, and
Mhm.
so you never knew when you would get something go up there. But now I only do it if it's something that I'm really not sure about. Although sometimes I would think, like I would have never posted that thimble for $700. And
Right. Well,
so,
you're right up there with George Kelly and Casey Vetterly and all those other ones that get these crazy high prices for stuff. So no, eBay's not dead.
Yeah, well, that was back in the early days. And my last really big sale like that was probably last summer. I got these two 1960s travel posters for in a big box of stuff that I paid $40 for the whole box. And the posters sold again at auction for a total of like $565.
Wow.
So
Good.
that was great. And those were from my guy. I think I mentioned this to you that I do go estate sales and thrift shops mainly. I find yard sales to be too much of a hassle. But there's this guy in my town who buys out estates, and he has a warehouse. And I have gone to just his open sales, which is where I got this. But he said, just make an appointment, and you can come and pick through my warehouse. So I've done that a couple times, and it's really, he's got great stuff, and he lets it go pretty cheap.
Okay, so I would like to come to Louisville and go with you to that. That sounds like an eBayer's dream to just,
Mhm.
yeah, it's not open to the public, but you just call me up and you come look and buy stuff. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, there's a couple places here like that have big warehouses of their estate sale companies that they just keep all their stuff that they don't sell, and then they open these warehouses.
Yeah, I had some clients on my virtual assistant service that we kind of helped them get started, and that's exactly what they were doing. They
Mhm.
had,
Oh, I remember that. He had that huge.
oh, that was a
Um,
different guy. That was a different guy. But
okay.
this was this year earlier, these couple of guys, they were in Nashville and
Mhm.
they were going out buying out estate sales, and they set up a warehouse and they were getting the stuff put on eBay, but they also let people come through privately by appointment and buy stuff. And
Mhm.
so for those of you out there watching, check that out. Call these estate sales companies, see if they have something like that, because
Yeah.
that would just be, you don't have the pressure of having to make a decision right then. You have a
Mhm.
little bit more time and space to figure out what you want to buy, but you have access to something that not everyone else does. You're not at a Goodwill with 500 other people fighting for stuff. You get a private
Right.
viewing. That's great.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what kinds of things you sell. And I want to apologize to Connie, who I did an interview with a few weeks ago, that I got her and you confused, because
Oh,
both of you post on Money Making Mondays, but you're the one that does the more like the doilies and the linens and more things like that. Am I right?
not so much lately,
But you
but
have.
I have done.
Okay.
I think you did have on one of your videos, you used one of my doily thing that I had gotten one time.
Okay,
But
yeah, I remember it was some kind of embroidered doily or a
yeah,
linen handkerchief or something that sold for a pretty high price.
yeah.
Okay, well, now
I
you
don't
can tell
remember what
us.
it is offhand, but I remember
Now,
that you used it in your video.
so you said that you sell vintage housewares, glass, pottery. So
Mhm.
you're not the mainstream clothing seller.
No, no, I went through a phase where I did that. I had a really good source in that there was this consignment store that the woman belonged to this church, and she would have a put all of her stuff that was left over or expired, or how her consignment stores work, in this church sale, and I would get Marc Jacobs and Gucci and stuff for a song.
Hmm.
And but then that kind of went away. So I know I will pick stuff up if it's something that if I can't find anything good on the racks, on the shelves in the Goodwill, I'll go through the racks and see if I can find anything. But I'm not like a fashion person, so I I don't. I sometimes have to go through and refresh myself on what the good brands are,
Hmm.
because I'm mostly buying my stuff at Goodwill.
Well, but so you'll do clothing as a last resort kind of thing. But do you
Yeah.
ever look for specialty equestrian stuff around your area?
It's usually pretty well worn, but but I did. like sell a pair of riding boots yesterday. I'm not sure if they were more fashion riding boots or not, but I knew to get them because they were size 12 with wide calves. And anything with wide calves in boots sells really well. But
Yeah, because those are hard to find. The wide, does it say on the inside of the boot wide calf, or does it just say wide?
sometimes it's either one. So it just depends
Yeah, those are
on the.
really hard to find. So you're smart to look for that.
Also, right in my local neighborhood, uh, there are two. One of them is right next door to the Goodwill specialty used equestrian um, shops. So I think they grab up everything right quick.
Oh, so they've got it covered. I didn't realize there was such a thing, a specialty, like a consignment type
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, because that equestrian is expensive stuff.
Mhm. hmm And sometimes also, like for the show horses, you'll find a lot of really nice jackets that aren't like specifically equestrian, but I guess they use them for different show stuff.
Yeah, that's a great keyword to put on like the white blouses and the very tailored dark waist length jackets. I've
hmm
sold over the years, learned to use that word and just look at what the styles are, because there are brands that are very high end, but then like you said, if you just need a nice black jacket for show riding, then
hmm
I mean, it doesn't have to be those
And,
expensive.
and we of course see lots of derby hats, but hats are hard to ship.
Oh, I can imagine that. Yeah. Okay. So is that something you look for?
Sometimes I tend more towards the vintage hats, those great big derby hats. People hang on to them, so you see them a lot of it at estate sales. Um, and but I tend more toward the vintage because again, I'm not really sure of what the brands are in the newer ones, and they generally tend to go behind the counter. And
I know.
I don't really look too much behind the counter.
Yeah, me either. It's already
Those
priced too
things are
high.
low.
What
Yeah,
about
and you.
like vintage collectible Kentucky Derby stuff, like Jack Daniels decanters and glasses and all that kind of stuff? Do you ever see any of that?
Yeah, I do a lot of barware because we're right here in Bourbon Country. So I do quite a bit of barware, uh, and that goes pretty well. Uh, Here, there's a lot of Maker's Mark and Larceny, and just about every bourbon company is right around here in Louisville. So I get a lot of those double old fashioned glasses. Um, the decanters that are figural, like the Jim Beam decanters that look like something, I don't do too many of those. I haven't found, you have to get like just the right one. That's like, there's only going to be a few of those that are really high end. Because I tend to mainly buy stuff also that I like, and I don't like those.
Well, and those decanters are a pain to ship. You've got to really wrap them well, and they can be kind
Mhm.
of big and like clunky and odd shaped.
Yeah, yeah. And I used to sell a lot of larger things. Like last year, when that Smart FedEx Smart Post, I was like going down to the FedEx place 3 or 4 times a week. I was selling, a lot of heavier stuff for a lot less. But then right at after Christmas, they changed their rates, and now it's like higher price than priority. It seems like sometimes, and the eBay calculator was off. So for like the first couple of times before I noticed it, I took a hit on some packages. So um, yeah. So I haven't been getting as many big heavy things as I was last year. But usually
Yeah.
I don't shy away from shipping glass.
Okay. Yeah, and it's nice to see that you're making it work. You don't have to do clothes. People seem to think, and that's just what I know and do and like the most. But
hmm
you don't have to. You can make money on anything, and what you're smart about is that you are taking advantage of the resources around you. What's hot in
Mm-hmm.
your area, the bourbon stuff, the derby stuff, as well as everything else. But
Mm-hmm.
that's how you have to set yourself apart as a seller, is what is unique to your area that not everybody else in the world can get.
Yeah. I do still sell a lot of shoes. That's one of my like bread and butter items because you can find them in good condition, and they're really easy to ship. What I do is I wrap them in paper and roll them so that the sides, and I use the padded flat rate.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never had, some people say you always have to ship shoes in a box, but I've never had anybody complain about it. They like that they only have to pay $6 for shipping. But, and around our Goodwills, shoes are only $4 a pair. And up until last year, they were only $3 a pair. So they're, and then I usually sell them for minimum from $16 to $32 a pair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And I
here.
sell 5 or 6 pairs a week, I would say.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and yeah, here they have raised the prices to about $6 for shoes. So
Oh,
I look at, it's got to be at least 25 to be worth
yeah.
it. And then the padded flat, right? I do that, and unless they're like a size 9 or
Oh,
bigger,
yeah.
then they don't
Mhm.
fit. They're
Yeah.
too long. Or if it's, it just doesn't make sense if it's got a spiky heel on it or something where it's going to poke through. But yeah, you're saving your customer money. And the
Mhm.
bottom line is, if it makes sense to do it, then yes.
Yeah.
All these people that cram all this stuff in these padded flat rates, and it's like
Mhm.
they explode if you shove too much in there. So you got to be
Yeah.
careful. But
And I've been guilty of like popping some of the bubbles on the inside at the bottom just to get that last little centimeter sometimes.
yeah, yeah, I know. And it can save them like $4 or $5 on shipping because you're not doing it by weight. So, if you're shipping across the country, it makes a difference.
Uh-huh.
And you can get the sale, you can be more competitive because your price is lower.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the meat of your business.
Okay.
How many listings do you have now?
Let me go to
You
my,
said 757 on eBay and 420 on Etsy. So over
yeah,
1,000.
I have 754 active listings right now on eBay. At one point I was up to 900, but I cleared out some of the dead weight, and I've been devoting more effort to some other platforms. So I have been a little bit lacking. I still do list every single day, at least a couple of things, but where I used to list, 10 or 12 things a day on eBay, now I list at least 6 things, 5 or 6 things a day on eBay. And then I have some on Etsy, and I've been lately doing Instagram. In fact, today I'm in the middle of a big Instagram group sale. So, which I forgot about when I scheduled this, but it's no big deal.
Oops. So everybody go to Patty's Instagram and buy something because she took the time away to come on this interview. So how long have you been selling on Instagram?
Oh, just started this summer, June. I joined a Facebook group that's a network of sellers that you support each other and like each other's things, and they have these group sales. And it was just for a way to learn about how to sell on Instagram, which is actually really kind of exciting. It's sort of more like an instant auction. Well, not really an auction, but like you'll post your thing and you'll say what price and what um, and say if you want this, somebody will claim it, and then they send you a direct message with their zip code, and then you send them a PayPal invoice with the shipping. And usually I've gotten more repeat customers than I've had years of eBay. Like this, you get the same group of people who kind of follow you
Mhm.
and buy stuff, and you kind of develop relationships with your
Yeah,
customers.
yeah, you want that repeat business. Yeah, then you
Yeah.
don't get that on eBay usually, unless you have something unique that you make, or most of the pickers out there don't get the repeat business.
hmm Like I had somebody yesterday who's bought from me, I don't know, maybe 10 times since July. And she's all the way in Portland, Oregon. So she pays like massive shipping. And she's like, oh, could you do a better price for me on this one thing? I'm going to buy this other thing. Like for you, yes. No
Yeah,
problem.
yeah, absolutely. So you're selling on eBay, Etsy, Instagram. What about Facebook groups?
I haven't done that too much. I'll do that occasionally. Like a couple of weeks ago, I had some, oops, sorry. I had some garage shelving that I wanted to get rid of, and I, just posted it up there. That's mostly like big, heavy, kind of locally stuff that I wouldn't, like, I think I've sold like a yoga thing and, some other big things
Hmm.
on there. But I
Okay.
haven't done it too regularly. I think I tried once to sell some vintage linen, some like sheets and stuff. There's a Facebook group just for vintage sheets,
Hmm.
but I didn't really get any traction on that. So,
Yeah, my
but
experience with Facebook groups has not been great. People just don't commit. Either they
yeah.
just don't, they say, yeah, I'm interested, I want this. And either they don't show up,
hmm
they cancel at the last minute, or you just never hear from them. And it's just
Right.
like, and you got to start over. So,
Yeah,
um,
and I know there are some that are ship only. And I tried Mercari and I did not like that, and I didn't really get any sales from it. And just reading the Facebook group about it sounds like it is way too much of a hassle. But because I had a bunch of like newer fashion jewelry that I was going to list on that, but it didn't really go anywhere, and it seemed like more trouble than it was worth.
and so you've got your vintage stuff cross listed on Etsy, right?
Not all of it. Usually I try to do it separately. And what I will do, well, my new workflow is I'll list something on uh, Instagram because there's no fees except for the PayPal fee. And then if it doesn't sell in a week, I will list it on either eBay or Etsy, depending on what. There's some things that you look at and you say, okay, this is an Etsy thing, you
Hmm.
know, like a little cute, kind of cutesy boho sort of deal. I'll put that on Etsy. Mainly, I will put it on eBay, but then I mark my prices up, sometimes considerably, to cover the fees, and also um, because I've done a little more research. The Instagram stuff is sort of instant, um, and so I'll do that, and plus I'll already have the pictures taken, and I'll already have a partial, because you don't have to write so much of a description, and I'll
Hmm.
have the description partially written, so I can cut and paste a lot of stuff into the eBay or Etsy thing. And then sometimes if something hasn't sold on eBay for a while, I'll move it over to Etsy, and the same way, because I'm not super organized at taking things down in time if they sell on one site.
Right. Yeah, and you have to keep up with that if it's
Mhm.
cross-listed. I'm sure there are tools out there. I think Channel Advisor has something, but it's like $300 a month, so you've got to be a pretty big seller to justify
Yeah.
that. But people ask, if it's listed on multiple sites, what do you do when it sells? And it's like, you get on those other sites and take it down.
Yeah. And I do a lot of times will have more than one of a thing. And then, I'll have a race between eBay and Etsy to see who will sell the thing first.
That's a good way to look at it. So how long have you been selling on Etsy?
That about 3 years now. And
Okay.
still, I think generally the rule of thumb is I make as much in a month on Etsy as I do in a week on eBay.
Yeah, it's much slower.
hmm
Yeah.
But sometimes those sales chime in right when you got zip on eBay. So it's good. And my first month of selling on Instagram, I made the same amount as I did on Etsy 3 years in. And
Oh,
then
good for you.
my second month selling on Instagram, I think I did $1,000.
Very
So
good. That's worth
um,
doing.
it is worth doing. It is a lot of work though. Like right now we're having this group sale and I belong to a thing called a pod, which is a group of other sellers. And as part of the pod, you have to like every post that everyone else does. And you have to comment on every 5 posts that everyone else does. Right now we're having this group sale, so everybody's making hundreds of posts. So I was up till 1:30 in the morning last night just liking people's things on Instagram.
Okay. So if you don't reciprocate, you get kicked out.
Right,
So you have to have the time to reciprocate, and everybody helps each other. You can't just show up and expect everybody to buy your stuff.
right, right. And
Okay.
I found initially, I think I was pricing all my stuff too low because I was just selling to other sellers. So,
Oh, well, but
so
if you're moving it out for what you want and you're making money and that's what's
Mhm.
okay with you, I mean,
Yeah.
that's you can't always just sit around and wait for the highest price, because if when you have access to so much stuff and you
Mhm.
can move it out and get your cut and move on, and
Mhm.
then that works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another question people like to know is, what does your eBay money pay for? And you did mention college kids and student loans. So is that kind of where it's going?
Yeah, well, I use it mainly for I do some household bills, but it's mainly I'll do the groceries and you know lunches, dinners out, um, that sort of thing, and of course investing it back into my junk.
Your fantastic inventory.
Yes, my
So,
fabulous inventory. I've tried to rein that in a little bit because I have a garage full of it, but but it's very hard to stay away.
well, you're in good company because most people do. They have their stash, their piles, their backup, their backlog, whatever they want to call it. And,
Mhm.
that's just part of it. That's just the way it is.
Mhm.
So you said your active total of your dollar amount on eBay is just over $12,000.
Mhm.
So if everything sold today, that's what you'd be looking at. And
Mhm.
you have about 750 items listed.
Yep.
Now, how much money does that produce profit each month?
Profit. Let's see. I lately it's about I don't know $1,500, something like that.
Oh,
Um,
great. Okay. So 750 items, listing a few every day, and then um, dollar value is $12,000, is producing, what'd you say, 1,600?
yeah. Let's see. I'm just looking at my. I pull up my sales. I got 2657 for the last uh, 30 days that they show. Let's see. And let me pull up.
That's not a bad investment at all. If you've got now, you didn't say how much money you have tied up in inventory, but
Yeah, I mean, I lose, it's like once I buy it, it's dead to me. I can't remember. Um,
but
but I don't spend that much on it'd be rare for me to spend more than $10 on an item. Rare for me to spend more than $5 on an item.
yeah, you said that your average is $4 for clothing and shoes and less than $2 for everything else.
Yeah.
So um, the point I'm getting
Yeah.
at here is the investment in this business is in your inventory and in your time. So I mean,
Yeah.
where can you go these days and plunk down a couple $1,000s and get this kind of turnaround out of it so
Mhm.
quickly and so regularly? Um,
Mhm.
and then your backup is always, you can sell your inventory. If
Right.
for
Right.
some reason you needed a bunch of cash, or
Hmm.
you needed to get rid of it to move or whatever, you can have an estate sale, you can have a garage sale, you can sell it to other sellers. There's always that
Hmm.
safety net of, you can sell out your inventory and move
Hmm.
on, which, when you take your money and go stick it in an investment that's only paying 2% per year or something, it's just sickening.
Hmm.
You've got to invest in the business, and you'll get the money back out of it.
Yeah, it's like on a few occasions when I bought like a scratch off lottery ticket, I'm like, I could have used that $2 to buy something that would definitely get me $50.
That's exactly what I think. I never play the lottery. We have it here in Georgia, and people play it all the time. And I'm like, I'll see them at the grocery store doing their scratch offs, and it's like,
Hmm.
nope, I'm going to take
I'm
my
looking here at my
$5.
I'm looking here at my selling cost, and it says I had let's see, my selling costs including shipping and everything was $858 on that 26 uh 57.
So about a third.
So yeah, and so it says I have net sales of $1,800, and so I would probably take away, you know, $300 of that for what I paid for everything.
So you're coming out at about 75% of what your net sales are.
Yeah.
Your gross sales. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, when I see those people plunking down $5 at the gas station for a lottery ticket, I'm like, I'm going to go up to Goodwill and buy me a pair of shoes I can sell for 50, and I have a guaranteed
Yeah.
uh, turnaround on that, not just throwing money away. But thanks for paying for the Hope Scholarship and for the pre-K program and everything else we have here.
I got dogs and kids going by in the
Oh,
background here.
that's okay. Yeah, no problem. So let's see what else. We've talked about your net sales, your profit, and what else did I ask you? Okay, let's talk about your process for sourcing. Are you just
Okay.
kind of like whenever you feel like it, or do you have a process, a schedule, whatever?
Well, now it's wherever I feel like it. My daughter's on campus this year. Last year, though, I would have to, she doesn't drive. So I was having to drive her downtown every morning and pick her up every afternoon. And there were several thrift shops in between that I would stop at on way too many days. So now I generally, so now she's living on campus this year, so I have a lot more time, but I'm trying to devote that more to listing. And I get up in the morning and I'll do my social media and I'll take some pictures, and then I'll eat lunch, and then I do all my shipping, and then our post office closes at 4:30, which is terrible. And so I'll get my stuff to the post office and then drive over to the Goodwill, maybe a couple of days a week. Or lately I've been trying to be good. So I might do a couple days a week. The one locally that's right in our town is really the best one. So I luck out that way. It's only a mile away. But there are maybe 5 within 15 miles of me that I can do a circuit through, uh, every couple of weeks. And I will go to estate sales. If there's one, now I've gotten so lazy, I will only go if it takes me less than 20 minutes to get to it. Um, and I usually now will only go on the second day where I get the bargains, because I'm not going to buy the big expensive, you know, mid-century modern whatever is there anyway. uh, I'm looking for the little things, the scarves and paper things, and pieces of
all
barware
this,
that.
all the stuff they throw in the box thinking, yeah, this is all miscellaneous crap, nobody's going to want this. And then that's
Right.
what I like to look at that too. You find like the vintage pins and the
Hmm.
pamphlet from whatever, or some old Pan Am airplane tickets from 1962
Oh
or
yeah.
something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
that's
also do a big business in flatware, stainless steel flatware from the 60s and 70s. it's amazing how much, you buy 4 forks for $1 each. And I just sold a lot of, 6 1960s, 1970s iced teaspoons for $18. Or, if you find a really good, I just sold one Christoffel France fork for $24.
And those are easy to ship.
Yeah. And I paid $1. Well, our Goodwill, how most of them have flat prices across. Ours will sell silverware for 25 cents a piece, but all the other ones are 59 cents a piece. And I'm not paying 59 cents a piece.
That's just too high. I'm not doing that.
Right. But I have so much silverware, and that's another thing that's part of I just like researching the patterns. And there are some things that I buy that aren't big profit, like EAPG glass, early American pattern glass,
Mm-hmm.
that I just like finding the patterns, and it doesn't sell for that much, although it should, because it's like it's from like 1890s and stuff like that. But I get a lot of that just because I have a glass group that I belong to that I like to share on, and I I like to find the patterns.
Well, and I think the people who do the best in this business are like that. They just love learning something new. They love knowing this stuff. And so that when you walk into the next place, you're like, yeah, I already know what that is. I just researched that last week. I know what that is. And
Yeah, people who don't know the difference between Art Nouveau and Art Deco drive me crazy when I look at their listings, or
oh,
arts that kind of thing. Know your periods.
well, and back to the flatware, a lot of our stores around here, they just put a whole bunch of stuff in a Ziploc bag and bundle it up. And you don't even know what's in there, and they just have $1 on it. So
Yeah.
some people love that. They're like, oh, it's like a mystery box and I can't wait to see what's in here when I get home. But I'm like, no, I want to know what I'm buying before I
Mm-hmm.
spend that $1.
Right. Yeah, I've bought those too, and you have a lot of cast offs in there. Like I was buying box lot jewelry on eBay for a while and because I do sell a lot of jewelry too. And it is kind of fun getting the box lot, even though there's a lot of. That's why I had all that newer fashion jewelry that I was trying to offload on Mercari, because you get those mixed lots that say they're vintage to newer, and they're mostly newer, but but you do find some gems.
Well, and that's a great alternative for people that can't get out and find stuff. They are disabled, they are a
Mm-hmm.
caregiver, they have a lot of kids or just whatever, or don't have stuff in their area or don't know what to buy. Go on eBay and get a box lot and then just work through it. And that's how you learn. Okay, so maybe you spent
Mm-hmm.
$25 on some stuff, but you're sitting there looking it up and learning what it is and learning what not to buy again.
Mm-hmm.
So you were a buyer of those lots, not a seller, right?
Right. Well, I have some that I'm going to need to sell from culling from all those. Like I cull out the stuff that I want, and then I have like, oh, I don't know, 50 pounds worth to get rid
Right.
of.
Yeah, but you just put your lot together, fashioned around whatever flat rate box it'll fit in,
Yeah.
and just pass it on to the next person.
'Cause that's the thing. Even if they're broken, you sell them as a craft lot.
Hmm. Yeah, there's always something to do with stuff like that. So those of you at home that have gobs and gobs of costume jewelry and just stuff that you don't wear, drawers full of it, which I've seen this, I know you're out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can put all that stuff together and sell it in a lot. And it is overwhelming to have to look up every single piece. But if you're downsizing or just wanting to start on eBay, there's junk drawer lots. I've got a video on that, but also
Mm-hmm.
these jewelry lots. And I've sold them. And I remember selling one. It went to Australia. They paid more for the shipping than for what was in the
Oh,
box.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd also say, don't be afraid of selling costume jewelry that's not marked. I sell it all the time. I sell pairs of earrings, single pairs of earrings between $8 and $12 every day, unmarked, you know.
Because it looks cool and it's perfect for their outfit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done that too. And it's like, it's just some funky looking peacock thing. And it's like,
Yeah.
the animal theme stuff sells really well.
hmm And also even stuff like Avon jewelry, some of it's really beautifully made, and you'll look it up and it'll, some people are selling it for 99 cents, but you can, I, regularly sell things for 12 or $16 that have, high sales of, you know, 19, a high price of like $4 or $3 or whatever. It's a kind of in the presentation also. And if I have a book on Avon jewelry and a book on Sarah Coventry jewelry, and you can put in your listing, when the date of it is, what the piece is called, that kind of gives you a premium.
Sarah Coventry, that brings to mind The Price is Right. They always had Sarah Coventry jewelry on there. And I think at one time, Avon was the largest manufacturer of costume jewelry in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's a lot, that just means there's a lot of it out there because they were the leader in making it. And it's like, it's in all these houses and all these drawers and jewelry boxes, and now it's coming out of the estate sales.
And then you also get the nostalgia factor. I mean, I've seen that before too. I was like, oh, I had that apple necklace, or, my mom had that, and then they'll want to buy it.
Yep, yep. And my mom sold Avon, and so did I when I was in high school. That was my first reselling thing. And it's like, I didn't get paid, I got stuff. So I was like 14 and getting makeup and earrings and fun necklaces, and that's why I did it. So I remember a lot of those pieces, and it's like, there's a lot of nostalgia with that. I think everybody at some point, either they sold Avon, their mother did, their sister did, like somebody they know close to them sold it at some point.
Yeah, there's this one particular Avon piece. It's by like Kenneth Lane. It's like this big, chunky, fake jewels necklace, like giant fake jewels. I found it like a couple of times, and there's earrings that match it. And I found the set before, and that sells like in a day for like $75.
Kenneth Lane necklace Avon.
Yeah, and it's like really kind of, it's like got these big cabochon jewels on it.
So we can go ahead and wrap this up because I've taken a lot of time out of your day. So the last thing is just, anything that you have to say to new sellers who are struggling, any helpful advice you can give to the people out there listening.
Well, my eBay sales had dipped really considerably, and you just got to sort of keep at it and expand your reach a little bit. That's what I did to moving into the Instagram and the eBay. But you got to devote time to it every day. The social media is really important. I remember the days when you could just throw something up on eBay and not worry about it again. Now you have to go back in and tweak things, make sure that you are using consistent keywords and thinking about how a buyer is going to search for what you need, and just keep at it and I have had things sell that have been listed for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And it's a matter of going through and you ending and restarting the listings, and you just got to be consistent, because I figure once I've done the listing, most of the work is done. So why keep redoing it?
Right. Well, and it's like on your old stock that's not moving, you've had it a while. It's like reworking leftovers in your refrigerator. You're gonna have to like mix it up and make something else and retake the picture and change the title and maybe put some things in a lot, or
because you might have had it forever, but there's always somebody who's just now listing that thing. So if you're just now listing that thing again, it's still a new thing.
Right. And sometimes just retaking the pictures can make a world of difference. And
yes, photography is really key. I've been working on that, and I can be a little lazy and not bring down my lights. I have one setup that's like right next to my
nice.
right next to my sliding glass door, so it gets natural light. So I use that mostly for vintage things and for Etsy and Instagram, because they like, kind of artsier natural light things where I will style the item with other items. And then I have another setup upstairs with a table with a white backdrop for my shoes. And then I have a white backdrop with mannequin, and I have the big studio lights up there. So I've been working on that. I don't do a lot of the cutouts because I don't know. I don't like the bright white background. My backgrounds are always a little bit grayish, but that's also partly because I'm lazy.
Oh, you mean you don't do like photo fuse where you
Right.
Yeah, that can be a real time suck.
And I'm terrible at it. I can never get it. Never get it right.
Yeah, I can't draw a straight line. I sure can't do one on the computer.
No. And I live in a house full of graphic artists. Nobody will help me.
Even though you paid for their education, that does not seem fair. Okay, well, tell us your name. Your store name is Circular Vintage.
Yes, Circular Vintage and Shoes, all one word, on eBay, and then I'm just Circular Vintage on Etsy and Instagram.
Okay, well, the links to that will be below the video, so you guys can check out her store. Make sure she's a real seller.
Oh yeah,
which she is. So thanks so much for spending some time with me today and talking to everybody.
It's nice to be able to talk to a person.
I know we kind of get into these interviews, and at the end people are like, I was just talking about eBay. It's like, yeah, that's what it is. But there's so many people out there that are going to listen to this, and they're in the eBay world by themselves. They don't have a spouse, or maybe their family's not into it, or they're just trying to get started and they don't have people to talk to. So they like these interviews because then you can meet real people just like you that do this every day. But it's like we're this silent, lonely army of people out there, just all these lone wolves working by ourselves.
Yeah, that's why Facebook has been such a lifesaver in that way. All these the different groups. And I always tell my husband that my coworkers are the post office people and the Goodwill clerks. I know all of them.
Well, that's not a bad thing. It's your inner circle. What's bad is like when the post office is right next to the Goodwill, that's my situation. So I go drop off my packages, and then it's like, oh, time to start the cycle again. I'm going to go in here, get more stuff, and then just keep doing this whole cycle. So, okay, Patty, well, it's great to meet you finally after all these years. And y'all go check out her stores and see what she sells.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.